Who's listening to the goddamn intro right now?
I don't know. Whoops. Maybe that was me.
I thought it was Adam's face.
That's why I always like the intro videos to be longer because I like sharing it a bunch of places before we actually go live. And
Everyone wants a long ass intro video. Everybody just wants us to start talking right away, bro.
Hey, I'm gonna name that cat behind you, Devin.
But I can't share it that way. But anyway, we're live once again.
That one.
Hedgehog Watchdog doing another debate video. These have actually they're fun for us, but they're actually some of our most watched videos we've ever done. Shit, so they're good for us. Good for business too.
Good for business.
I think that's because Ashley and I joined you guys, and it's just like we're really good for the viewership.
You know what? That might be it. Maybe you guys need to join the crew.
I refuse.
Maybe
every
you guys
show,
need a little sexiness in your show.
Absolutely.
And by that, she's talking about me. So.
Well,
I know I can be your reporter in the field that has like a 10-second delay when you try to ask me a question. You'll be like, Adam, what's going on out there, on pier? And I'll be like, thanks, Devin. Yeah, like we're here.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for joining us. Well, Tracey's debate's up 5 minutes here. Round 2. I'll get the screen up here. Predictions for the debate.
Well, if you want my 2 cents,
yeah,
Tracey's gonna fucking kill it.
Whoa! We don't want any violence. This is a civil debate. We're not looking for any killing happening.
So
here.
Tracey told me she was coming out like Colin Duprell and just going for the throat, just from opening to close. It's happening, she said.
Like right when Jamie just starts introducing himself, she'll cut him off and be like, shut up. I'm going to tell you what's going on, sir.
Fake news.
Just Donald Trump in it the whole time, just talking over him.
Dude, that'd be epic if she pulled like what Kamala Harris did to Mike Pence at that vice presidential debate. Like, excuse me, I'm still talking. Like she takes a long pause and then waits for him to say something, and then he's like, "No, I'm not finished yet, bro."
No, but this one will be interesting. We got No Show Noem. She's not showing up.
She decided Noem.
Yeah, she decided to hold a fundraiser for veterans instead. Boo. Boo.
I think that was a huge, like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? An act of desperation, because she knows that she was taking a lot of crap for it. So she's like, oh, I'm going to do something that they can't make me feel bad about. And that's doing a veterans fundraiser. So it's like,
yeah, but it ain't an issue of a prior engagement. Like she literally just made something.
Yeah, she made it happen. She knew that it was tonight, so she made it for tonight.
This is a production of South Dakota Public Broadcasting.
3 minutes. Learn, dream, grow. It's our motto.
I'm a little disappointed there wasn't a lieutenant governor's debate so we could see Ashley and Larry go at it.
Yeah, I think Larry is like 6'5" or something. I would have liked to seen that. She pulls the whole Colin Duprell, like stare him down when you're doing the handshake.
Yeah.
And she's, 5'2".
Can we just talk about that picture for a second on how great it is? Because if you like just read the body language, like Colin's standing there with so much freaking confidence and stuff, whereas it's like Dusty's the one leaning over and reaching out and stuff. I'm saying when you read body language, I mean, Colin's the one with the upper hand in that picture. Makes him look powerful.
Dusty's got youth on his side though.
What?
He's like 22 years old, I think.
Yeah. Doesn't he have like 3 teenagers or something like that?
He just looks like you see them standing next to each other. It's like, how's Colin look older? And I'm pretty sure Dusty's like 20 years his elder. He's a young elder. Colin's a young elder. You guys don't watch Reservation Dogs, so you don't get that, I guess.
I've watched a few episodes.
You gotta watch them all, man. So yeah, this debate, second governor's debate. We got one more Libertarian debate. Oh, you found the picture.
I found it. I've been muted this whole time. Oh my god, dude! Don't stop. Ugh, whatever.
That was Ashley, but that might be on purpose. She might not want to talk with us. Who knows?
This looks like the picture of the year, I'd say, right
So
here.
Jeremy Chuka says Kristi Noem for president. I'm going to agree with him because then she's not governor of South Dakota.
Yeah, but then she's messing things up on a larger scale.
I don't think anyone can mess things up on a larger scale than constantly happen every 4 years.
Yeah, but you see
It's like
how
each
bad
president,
it was with Trump,
each
right?
president's like worse than the next, in my opinion.
Right, so let's not have her be the one that does it. Because then people are like, well, that's what you get when you get someone from South Dakota. South Dakota, the Texas of the North.
The Texas.
Dude, that's an epic slogan, I think.
It's better than meth we're on it.
Is it?
I guess we could have a poll.
Oh, here we go. Is it happening? I'll turn the volume on.
Yeah, get your volume on there, my guy.
Yeah.
All right, go Tracey.
Tracey,
so
Tracey,
funny if,
Tracey,
like,
Tracey.
Once it started, she's facing the opposite direction. Be like, what the heck's she doing?
Hello and welcome to SDPB's 2022
Empty
gubernatorial debate. I'm Jackie Hendry, tonight's moderator. We're broadcasting from the Leo P. Flynn Gallery in SDPB's Sioux Falls studio. And tonight, I'm joined by Democratic candidate, State Representative Jamie Smith. Representative, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And Libertarian candidate, Tracey Quint. Ms. Quint, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Republican incumbent Governor Kristi Noem declined our invitation to participate in tonight's debate. A review of the rules. Each question is allowed a 90-second answer, a 60-second rebuttal from the other candidate, and a 30-second follow-up as needed. The questions were curated by SDPB journalists, and some have been submitted by our studio audience. We've allowed 1 minute for opening statements and 2 minutes for closing statements. We drew the order for opening statements before tonight's broadcast, and Tracey Quint drew first. Tracey Quint, your 1 minute opening statement starts now.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank South Dakota Public Broadcasting for having this debate, and I want to thank the voters of South Dakota for allowing me to be a part of this election. In introducing myself, I want to maybe address one of the elephants in the room. I'm not a politician. I'm not 100% polished like some of my competitors, but I felt it was important to have a normal South Dakotan be part of this election. I love my state, and I love the freedoms of the state of South Dakota. And I wanted to make sure our state stays amazing and that we continue to enjoy the freedoms that we hold dear in our state. On that note, I'm honored to be here, and I look forward to discussing the issues tonight. And I look forward to a great debate with my competitor, Jamie Smith.
Thank you, Tracey Quint. Representative Smith, 1 minute starts now.
Thank you. And again, thanks for having us. And thank you for all the people at home that are tuning in here tonight. Thank you for being here. Another elephant in the room, the fact that our governor is not here. The governor has chosen not to be with you here today. And she's chosen that for a very specific reason, because she doesn't want to have to answer to the lies that she's been spreading throughout this whole campaign cycle. She doesn't want to have to answer to the fact that she's been found guilty of malfeasance. She doesn't want to answer to the fact that she's being investigated for the use of the state plane. She doesn't want to answer those questions. She has recently gone after me on things like taxes. I'm not going to raise your taxes. She's gone after me on taking away your guns. I'm not going to take away your guns. There are all kinds of things that our governor is saying that just aren't true. But she doesn't want to answer those questions, so she didn't come. But I'm so glad you did, and I'm so glad we can have this debate here tonight. Thank you.
We also drew for the order of the first question. That goes to Tracey Quint. Ms. Quint, this is your first campaign for public office. What experience makes you the best candidate to lead South Dakota's executive branch?
I think my experience as a normal young professional in the state of South Dakota gives me a good advantage for this office. Being able to know what South Dakotans go through, knowing that, you know, as a young professional, I work 2 jobs and I hold down two pieces of employment, and I understand the struggles that a South Dakotan goes through every day. And I see it on the street. I see it with the people that I work with one-on-one. And I know that, you know, people are just trying to get by, and I understand that. And I really hope that we can, you know, I really feel that I can understand the people and what they're going through. And I really want to be able to express that and to be able to work with the individuals in South Dakota and say, I understand what you're going through. I'm one of you. I haven't been in the legislature for years. I haven't been a politician for years, and I don't have any corporations or anything in my back pocket. And I just want to work to make the state better for you.
Representative Smith, I'll give you 1 minute to speak to your experience.
You bet, and thank you. You know, over the past 6 years, I've been in the South Dakota legislature, but before that, I was a teacher and a coach. And through those processes, I learned leadership skills, actually throughout my entire lifetime. But as a legislator, then I was asked to be the leader 4 years ago of the House Minority Caucus. And in doing so, I've honed those leadership skills, and I've learned how to work together, work across the aisle to solve real South Dakota problems. And so that experience, along with the relationships that I've built, set me up in a good spot to work together to solve real problems. Over the last years, we have had many things brought into our state that don't need to be here. And as the leader of the state of South Dakota, I will focus on real South Dakota problems and work together with my colleagues across the aisle to solve those issues.
Our second question goes to you, Representative Smith. Governor Noem has labeled you as, quote, too extreme for South Dakota. You have campaigned as a centrist, but as a Democrat, you are to the political left on many issues compared to many South Dakotans, since Republican registered voters hold a strong majority in the state. For example, you hold an F rating with the NRA. What would you say to Republicans who are hesitant to vote for any Democratic candidate, especially in the current political climate? 90 seconds.
Thank you. First of all, I'd let them know that they should look at the latest quotes in the front page of the Argus Leader today from a friend of mine named Spencer Gosh. Spencer is the Speaker of the House, and he is a very conservative individual. He'll tell you I'm not extreme. He will tell you. You know why he can say that? Because he knows me. He's worked with me over the past 6 years, and he knows how we work together to solve real problems here in the state of South Dakota. There's nothing extreme about that. My F rating with the NRA, I tell you what, there's nothing extreme about my views on that either. I'm not taking away your guns. I have voted to make sure that people that are mentally unstable don't have access to their gun. That's what they're talking about on that. I also thought that perhaps we shouldn't carry guns in the Capitol building. So those are things that I voted for that went along with law enforcement, by the way, because that's what law enforcement wanted as well. So I voted with law enforcement. And then I get a bad grade because I vote with law enforcement. That's very frustrating, okay? But let me tell you that I'm not extreme in any measure. I'm a moderate who works together with other people in South Dakota. It doesn't matter what party you're in, to solve real problems here in the state.
Tracey, Quint, 60 seconds on how you would speak to Republican majority registered voters in South Dakota.
I would say that rather than looking at party lines, we need to look at individual issues and think about where your importance or where it's important to you, rather than voting straight down as a Republican candidate or as a Democrat or a registered Democrat, or even just as a registered Libertarian. You need to look at where the individuals stand on the issues that are important to you. So I would say that being able to do that research and to be able to look at that individual and say, yes, I agree with them on these issues, but I really don't agree with them on these issues. I think we would get better people in office if we went by issue rather than by party lines.
Our next question goes to Representative Smith on something just unfolding tonight. Governor Kristi Noem is calling for an immediate investigation into what her campaign is calling alleged campaign finance violations from your campaign. According to state law, all contributions over $100 must include name, mailing address, city, and state of each person making that contribution. Her campaign says your filings only include name and amount of the contribution. 90 seconds. What happened?
We've done all the work we can do, and everything was at our accounting firm. If something was turned in and there was a clerical error or something like that done, I'm sure it's already been corrected. Okay. There is nothing going on that is malfeasance or wrongdoing on the part of our campaign. We're up and up. We're palms up in everything that we do. We don't have ads that are running that are lies about the people that are running in the state. And so I would just say to the people of South Dakota, to look at all the other things that have been said that are lies in this campaign already.
Tracey, Quint, I'll give you 60 seconds. Did your campaign meet the filing deadline?
We did. We filed our paperwork just this afternoon, so we are in on time. We don't have the out-of-state or the amount of donations that the other two parties have, and that's just the reality of it. As a third party, sometimes you just don't get the funding that other parties get. But we are extremely proud of the campaign that we've run so far. We haven't run any attack ads on anybody, and we haven't had any indecencies going on in our campaign that I know of anyways. So we've run a really great campaign, and all of the money that we've gotten has been from individuals within the state of South Dakota, and we're really proud of that fact.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next topic of the evening, inflation. Representative Smith, this question for you. All three candidates for governor have expressed interest in cutting the sales tax on food. However, some lawmakers are expressing concerns over how to pay for it. One suggestion floated, removing it in steps over several years. Representative Smith, how would you implement your plan to cut the grocery tax, and how would the state make up for the lost revenue?
Well, it's a great question, and we've been advocating for a grocery tax elimination for years. For years and years and years. And now the governor decided that that's a great idea too. Well, she wasn't so keen on it in February. All right. And so what we're doing is working with the appropriations people to make sure that that cut can be done responsibly. And one of the things that we need to do is make sure that we have revenue streams such as cannabis coming in, which I believe will be voted on, that can offset that. And so we're looking at things like that to make sure we do that. We also have a $115 million surplus right now. $115 million surplus that would more than cover the money that we're talking about here with the grocery tax. And so that money could go back to the people and put it in their pocket. I was the only one who voted last year to get that tax removed. We passed it through the House of Representatives, and it died immediately when it hit the Senate because the governor told them to kill it.
Tracey, Quint, 60 seconds. How would your administration implement a cut to groceries tax and make up for the lost revenue?
Well, I will agree with Representative Smith in the fact that this should have been done a long time ago. And I believe that we shouldn't be imparting more of a tax burden on individuals than we have to be, especially with essentials like food. That should have been eliminated a long time ago. As far as how do we fund that, there's other things that we can be doing. Like he said, legalizing cannabis and getting that revenue stream going here in South Dakota. Other things that we can also look at are criminal justice reform and housing less people in prisons, getting people that are not guilty of violent crime. And if we have less people that we're paying $29,000 a year to keep them in prison, get them out back into the economy and have them be working productive members of society, we're going to bring more money back into our state, and we're going to be spending less warehousing people in prisons. And that's one of the other ways I think we can do that.
Our next question directed to Ms. Quint.
Yes.
Inflation is a global problem with a very local impact. Many South Dakotans are finding it hard to pay the bills as the cost of groceries and gas eats into their paychecks. What do you plan to do at a state level to ease the burden of inflation on the average South Dakotan, aside from the previously mentioned food tax proposal?
I believe there's other ways that we can eliminate some of the tax burden to the individuals, as far as reducing property taxes, reducing some of the other things that people are taxed on nowadays. We're at a 4.5% sales tax. We were supposed to have that drop back down to 4% with the internet sales and whatnot, and that still hasn't been done. And I think that's one of the things that we can take a look at in reducing that tax burden on the individuals. I'm not looking to eliminate any programs that people are on, but I do think that we can take a look at if there's any government bloat or any money that's being wasted by the government, and being good stewards of the taxpayers' money, we can look at where we can reduce some of that amount of money, and make sure that the people are not paying more in taxes and not paying more than they have to be. We can definitely reduce some of that burden on the individual. And inflation is going to be hard, but if they're spending less money on government on taxes and paying less into the government, I think that'll help a lot of the families in South Dakota.
Representative Smith, 60 seconds.
New and better jobs in our state would be a great start, right? People earning more, being able to afford more. And so new and better jobs are something that we want to work with in the state, and keeping people here in the state by having those new and better jobs and keeping our students here. Now, to the point that you're talking about, though, when we talk about those, there's a lot of things that we've spent money on that we're calling the Kristi tax. All right, and we could eliminate the Kristi tax right now. We didn't need a fence. We didn't need a news studio. We didn't need to spend our dollars promoting the state, but really promoting ourselves, the governor. There were a lot of things that our governor has spent money on that didn't need to spend money on, and that money could go back to the people as well.
We'll move on to our next topic of the evening, and that is abortion. This next question for Ms. Quint. Many candidates running for state Senate and House have told us that they're pro-choice. They also say they're ready to have nuanced conversations about abortion legalization should voters send them to peer. If voters elect you as governor, what legislation would your office want introduced regarding abortion?
If elected as governor, I would want abortion removed from the legal sense whatsoever. It's a medical decision that I believe needs to be taken between an individual and their doctor, and possibly their family if that's what they decide. I don't believe that the government has any room to be deciding what an individual can do with themselves and with their families, especially if it's a medical issue. They shouldn't have to jump through hoops to have a procedure that could save their lives. And I think that's where the government should remove itself completely from the abortion issue. I think that's a medical decision, and we should leave that up to the medical providers and the individuals who are seeking that procedure.
Representative Smith, 60 seconds.
Ms. Quint and I agree on this issue that this should be left up to individuals and doctors to make these important decisions for women's health. We've gone too far. And we had an opportunity. We could have called the special session and done something about it. We actually brought legislation that would have tried to remove rape and incest from this list. And I think we had the political will to do that, but we didn't do it. We didn't get that special session called by the governor in order to do that. So we proposed legislation that will bring that. I think the other part of it's going to have to be brought through referendum, though, in the state. And that they're already working on something, but we're going to have to do that through a referendum to get that through to protect women's health in the state of South Dakota. We've gone too far, and the governor supports how far we've gone. The governor on TV said that it's okay for a 10-year-old to have to give birth to a baby that was raped. That's not right.
Our next topic of the evening is agriculture. This question directed to Representative Smith. Agriculture has long been the #1 industry in South Dakota, but the industry is changing. The number of family farms in the state has fallen from nearly 40,000 in 1980 to around 29,000 today. This is resulting in population declines in many rural communities as well. What can be done to revitalize small and mid-sized farms in South Dakota? 90 seconds.
It's a great question, and I look forward to working with the farmers in the state of South Dakota on this very issue. Met recently with Farmers Union and had a great conversation with a ag producer up in the northern part of South Dakota that's opened his own oat business, oatmeal. He has decided to start something new right here in South Dakota, and he, rather than growing the traditional corn and soybeans that a lot of folks are doing, he's diversified into oats. And he started an oatmeal business. And one of the reasons why is his kids can now work for that same company here in the state of South Dakota. So more people are able to stay in South Dakota and work on the farms. We need more innovation like this in the state of South Dakota. I don't want our grains and crops leaving the state of South Dakota as fast as they are without turning into something else here in the state of South Dakota. We also met with the ethanol industry. I'm all for E30 in our state fleet. The governor had said she would, but then she didn't follow through. E30 is a way to make sure that our ethanol is used in our vehicles, and it provides for cleaner air. So there are things that we can do in our state to make sure we grow that industry. The other thing I'd want to do is look at an opportunity to have an office for developing co-ops, farmer co-ops here in the state of South Dakota, like some of the states around us are doing, to grow these business ideas that diversify ag and make it possible for more of our people to stay in their smaller communities and do the great things that so many farmers are choosing to do.
Tracey, Quint, 60 seconds.
Yep. I mean, I agree that we need to have farmers and ranchers at the table when we're discussing agricultural legislation. I'm not a farmer. I'm not a rancher. I don't know the struggles that they go through every day. I don't know exactly how, the logistics of running a farm, but I would want to work with the individuals to make sure that, the policies and the things that are set in place help them to continue to be stronger as farmers, and when they're producing their products. I've talked to a couple of ranchers and farmers that talked about country of origin labeling, working to deal with energy costs as far as ag inflation goes. How do we reduce those so that they can keep producing their crops and still be able to make money off of them? And we could do some things with rolling back certain legislation or certain regulations, as far as having the ability to haul their own products, without a CDL, so that they can stay competitive with the larger farms.
Representative Smith, was there anything in there you'd like to respond to? Next question directed toward Ms. Quint. Drought has hit a few areas of the state hard this year, particularly in the Yankton area, where the severity of the drought is hitting historic levels. What would you do to help farmers endure the environmental extremes we so often face in South Dakota? 90 seconds.
I think with something like that, I would want to sit down and talk to them and say, what would help you? What would be the best avenue? Like I said, I don't know what the logistics of running that farm would be, and I don't know exactly what would be the best route to help them and to be able to make sure that they're still viable in the years to come when maybe the drought isn't as bad. And how do we keep their farmland viable and whatnot? I would definitely be open to having a sit down conversation and saying, what can we do as a state to make sure that your land is still viable? What can we do to make sure that next year, when we do have enough rain and the drought isn't bad, that you're still able to grow on this land, and we're able to produce the crops that we need to feed South Dakota.
Representative Smith, 60 seconds.
As we've traveled across the state, it is interesting how spotty the state is this year. There are good prices for our crops this year, but there are areas like you're talking about where early on it became clear that there wasn't going to be a crop. And I think as a state, we need to work with those individual counties in those areas with declarations of a to help them in those right. But we got to also make sure that people are utilizing the insurance programs that we have out there for crop insurance. And we have to also then, work to, again, diversify what they're doing and have other streams of income for these farmers. I feel for them, and I do agree with Ms. Quint that we need to sit down with the ag producers. When we make decisions about ag, we should be doing it with people that are in ag. And that's why I want to make sure we bring back a Department of Ag and have an ag secretary and a secretary of natural resources. They're separate things. We want to have a secretary for ag to help us make these very decisions that we're speaking of today.
Our next topic of the night is Native American affairs. The first question goes to Representative Smith. Indigenous people make up more than half of the cases listed on the state's missing persons clearinghouse site. Last year, the legislature created the Liaison for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons within the Attorney General's office. That position, as you know, was intended to serve as a bridge between tribal and state jurisdictions. This year, the nonprofit Native Hope pledged 3 years of funding for this position. As governor, would you support permanent state funding for this position?
First of all, the answer is absolutely. And I want to let you know how hard Representative Poirier worked on that, Representative Red Don Foster, friends of mine, working so hard to make sure that these laws passed. And not only are they going to fund one position this year, but I believe there may be up to 3 people working on this coming up. And it is a huge problem. And we need to do a better job. And one of the things that we're going to be able to do with this new position is have different governments, the tribal government, the state government, and the national government can and talk together so we can do a better job of identifying who's missing and then work to find those individuals. It's not right. It's not right what has gone on for so long. And as I travel through these areas of our state and working with people, they are so proud of the work their legislators have done. And we supported them through that process and got those bills passed. But that's not enough. We need to make sure we provide the funding going forward, and we need to keep it on the forefront of people's minds, because otherwise these people will be forgotten, and that's not okay.
Ms. Quint, 60 seconds. Would you support permanent funding, and what else might your administration suggest as it relates to missing and murdered Indigenous people? 60 seconds.
I will agree with Representative Smith that we need to have everybody at the table and discussing, how do we make sure that this issue doesn't get worse, and how do we eliminate this issue? We need to have the tribal leaders involved. We need to have national leaders involved. We need to have the state leaders involved in making sure that we can, keep these individuals from going missing, and then find these individuals if they are missing, and bring their kidnappers, attackers, whatever, to justice. And definitely looking at what funding sources we can make sure that continues to be viable even after this. It's a grant, right? Or nonprofit, yeah. So even after that funding runs out, let's look at how we can continue to keep that position going.
We'll move on to questions related to election integrity. This question directed towards Representative Smith. The Washington Post placed Governor Kristi Noem on a list of candidates who have denied or questioned the results of the 2020 presidential election. Noem has said she believes Joe Biden is the president of the United States. She also campaigned in Arizona for a candidate known for baseless election fraud claims. How has the dialogue around election integrity impacted our confidence in the upcoming election? 90 seconds.
January 6th was a terrible day for our country. Terrible day for our country. Election denying is absolutely not the answer. We know how hard our state auditors work to make sure that we have a fair and free election in the state of South Dakota. They're good people, and they're working hard. Now, I had a lot of people asking us for forensic audits of this election. Trump won by 70% in South Dakota. I said on the floor of the House, if anybody thinks that something was wrong in this election, it should be me. I have 8 people in my caucus, is what the quote was. And I think it was fair. Right? South Dakotans work hard. Our auditors work hard to make sure that we're moving forward and that they're doing a good job. This is all rhetoric to stir up people and to deny the real winners in this case the chance to have those offices and to put doubt in people's minds. And that's not good for our democracy. That's not good for our country. And you're right. The governor has gone out and stumped for people that are election deniers. And that's very, very frustrating. South Dakotans deserve better.
Tracey, Quint, 60 seconds. How has the dialogue around election integrity impacted our confidence in the upcoming election?
I think that, once we have a winner decided, we need to accept that and move on. And whether you believe it or not, that's the way it is. I do think that as South Dakotans, I think our elections, we work hard to make sure that it is fair and the election day runs smoothly. I mean, I would say that maybe coming up to the election, all the candidates isn't always fair, but that's just coming from a third-party candidate.
It's contagious.
Myself.
It's because how close she's standing.
I would definitely say as far as election day, I don't think that there's any seediness or anything going on underneath the surface. No.
Our next topic of state issues question directed to Ms. Quint. State government has come under scrutiny recently on a number of transparency issues. One example, Governor Kristi Noem has faced questions for her use of the state airplane. She denies any wrongdoing. If elected, what will you do to make government more open, both within the governor's office and statewide?
Well, if I'm elected as governor, I would make sure that the people have as much information about what's going on in Pierre as they possibly can. I want to open up the office for media interviews as far as, as far as we possibly can, within reason. I'm not, during personal family times or anything, but I want to make my office open to media, and I want to make other offices within Pure open to media. I want the people to know what's going on, and I want them to know that we're being good stewards of the tax dollars that they have coming in and to the policies that we're putting in place, because we are doing it for the people of South Dakota. The only reason that the people elected in Pure are there is because the people of South Dakota put them there. And I think that they need to remember that when they're there, that it's their duty to be a representative of the people that elected them. So I want to make sure that it's as transparent as it possibly can.
Representative Smith, 60 seconds.
Thank you. And transparency is huge. And showing people what you do. It took forever to try to figure out where this airplane has gone. We finally figured that out by pushing and pushing and pushing. And in the records, there are questions, right? So many questions that actually the GOAC decided that this should be looked at, and it was sent over to the Attorney General, but the Attorney General sent it to the Hughes County State's Attorney to investigate. So it's being investigated right now. And this law was put on the books to make sure things like this didn't happen. And as the governor of South Dakota, I will completely understand that airplane is not mine. That airplane works for the people of South Dakota. All right. And so that will be very clear from day one, that the airplane, if it goes out, will go out to do the business of the state of South Dakota.
The next question is for Ms. Quint. Several major projects in South Dakota are raising questions about where to draw the line between the rights of individuals and businesses. A proposed CO2 pipeline is pitting landowners against ethanol producers, while a group of Sioux Falls residents launched a ballot initiative drive to stop a proposed from being built in the city. As governor, how will you balance the rights of citizens with business freedoms?
Well, first of all, as governor, I will 100% support the rights of the landowners and the individuals. If they own the land, I do not support, the use of eminent domain. If it's something that a company wants to put a pipeline through or wants to utilize a person's land for something, they need to buy it off that individual fair and square if that's what they're looking to do. And if they don't want to sell, then the company needs to figure out how they're going to do that without using that person's land. As far as things like the slaughterhouse and whatnot, I guess right now it's on the ballot, or they're trying to stop it as an initiative. And I do think that people have a little bit of rights as far as their community and whatnot. I don't know if I necessarily agree with stopping a business unless it's directly affecting an individual's health or land, which I guess it could be argued that this one is. But for sure, I would definitely not support the use of eminent domain.
Representative Smith, 60 seconds on balancing the rights of citizens with business freedoms.
You know what? We do not use eminent domain for private gain. That's summing it up as succinctly as I can. We do not use eminent domain for private gain, especially on a person's private land, right? They have the right to use that land as they see fit, and we will not do that. The other thing is supporting the will of the people. So as far as the other talking point that you talked about, the will of the people will prevail in this case, and we'll have a decision, and we will follow through with that. I really support the will of the people. And I think that when the people vote on something, we should follow what they say.
Our next topic relates to the ongoing drug crisis in our state and nation. This question for Representative Smith. While South Dakota has a lower rate of overdose deaths than many other states, the impact of the drug crisis is still very much being felt in communities around the state. What would you do at a state level to combat drug and opioid abuse?
The first thing I want to talk about here is how we deal with people that are addicted to a drug. First of all, I want to change the paradigm that addiction is not a moral failing. I'll say it again. Addiction is not a moral failing. It's an illness, and it should be treated as such. So we need to do a shift between corrections and treatment. So people that are addicted to some of these drugs, like opioids and like meth, it's a big problem in the state of South Dakota, need time away from the drug. And that takes sometimes being, incarcerated or put in treatment that's a lockdown facility so they don't have access to that. But just locking people up for it doesn't do any good. We need the treatment aspect. So we need to work on that. We need to figure that out. And I know oftentimes we try, but we don't keep people long enough perhaps to actually get the actual treatment that they need, or there's not space available to treat the people that need the treatment. I was just talking to a woman on Saturday night, and she said, "Thank you so much for realizing that it is not a moral failing." And she started crying because she herself was a person that has addicted to drugs. She's 2 years sober, but she says it's so hard each and every day. And to have people think that she's a bad person because she got addicted to a drug that was prescribed by a doctor and then later sought cheaper options that were illegal drugs breaks her heart, and she wants a change. And as a South Dakota, we need to focus on that change.
Tracey, Quint, 60 seconds. What would you do at a state level to combat the drug crisis?
I'm going to agree with a lot of what Representative Smith said. I believe that we should be concentrating more on rehabilitation than incarceration. As if an individual is caught with an illegal drug, most likely they're going to end up with a felony on their record. They're going to end up incarcerated for a period of time. And then when they get out of prison, it's going to be harder for them to find work because of that felony on their record. It's going to be harder for them to become a productive member of society once they're released from prison. So I think what we need to do is concentrate more on the rehabilitation and concentrate more on decriminalizing more of the victimless crimes so that people can be rehabilitated afterwards and can become productive members of society and can contribute to the economy of the state once they are rehabilitated.
Our next question is an audience submitted question along these same lines. Or did you have a response?
I just want to say that what she said is so true. That the housing and the jobs portion of what you talked about, when you have to check that I'm a felon, it doesn't provide for an opportunity to grow your life and do better, right? And so they get stuck in a cycle. And that's what we need to break. And by doing exactly what you were talking about, that's how we can do that as a state. So we agree on that. And that's something we can do so much better than we're doing today. So I'm sorry to jump in there. I'm passionate about that.
Right. This next question, audience submitted along similar lines. Police, sheriff's offices, highway patrol are among the first lines in the fight against drugs. They also frequently report that many violent crimes are connected to drug-related issues. What will you do to support the work of law enforcement officers in the state? And I think I direct that to Representative Smith.
First of all, our law enforcement officers in the state of South Dakota are fabulous. All right. They work so hard to protect and serve the communities that they work in. And my hat's off to it because they put themselves in dangerous situations each and every day. And so I want to say thank you to those people. Thank you, law enforcement. Now, that situation that they're put into often is mental health crises, that they're not a mental health professional. So we have to work on that. I know that we've had the opportunity to put in iPads, for example, or computers in the cars that link up with mental health services across our state so that they can help evaluate people that are in mental health crises. But that doesn't take away that immediate threat when somebody's in that crisis with firearms or things like that involved. And so what we need to do is solve that mental health problem before it becomes acute. All right. And that takes more help than we have currently in the state of South Dakota. We need more counselors. We need more people treating people with mental illness and the like, so people don't get to a point where they're in that crisis that they're dangerous to themselves or others. And so that, again, is another point that we can do better at. You know, oftentimes these same people that are struggling with mental health issues medicate themselves with drugs. All right. So if we can break that cycle again, we can do better for the people of the state of South Dakota.
Ms. Quint, 60 seconds.
I will agree that we need more mental health services all around the states, but also I think that we need to make sure that we're continuing to support our law enforcement and our first responders and making sure that their mental health services are also as strong as they possibly can be, so that if they do end up in a situation that's scary like that, or if they do end up in a situation where it's not necessarily in their purview, it's a mental health issue, not necessarily a crime issue, that they have at least some of the training to be able to say, I can de-escalate the situation, and then afterwards they have somebody to go to just talk about the situation and to regroup and to be able to know that they're supported even in that situation, because it affects their mental health as well, and we need to support them before and after the situations happen.
God, thank you for saying that.
Our next topic, we'll move on to economy and jobs. This question for Representative Smith. South Dakota boasts one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. And while that's a positive sign for the economy, it's also indicative of one of the biggest issues stalling growth in our state, a lack of workforce. According to the Department of Labor, there are 25,000 job openings in the state, but only about 11,000 unemployed people. What will you do to attract more people to the state and spur workforce development?
Great question. First thing is we need to make sure we have jobs in the state that people are trained for, right? And we're losing some of our educated people because the states around us are paying more. And so they're heading out of state. It's called brain drain. We need to stop the brain drain. Secondly, on the same issue, we used to be a state that had lots of immigrants and lots of refugees brought in by places like Catholic Social Services, Lutheran Social Services, and we were a center for people coming to America. And these people work so hard, and they bring great things to our communities, and they also provide. And under the current governor, we have said no to multiple groups of people that we could have had in our communities, adding to the diversity and the greatness of our state.
Is that just me, or did we lose him?
Yeah, we lost.
We
him.
lost audio.
So I assume what he's saying is, I'm going to take your guns. I'm going to tax you. I'm going to. No, I'm just kidding. What happened there?
Shut up, Kristi.
Technical difficulties. Yeah, Kristi Noem, a DDoS attack on the servers.
Yeah.
Trying to get it back. Yeah, it still doesn't have nothing. It says the screen's muted, I think. Click those three dots.
The audio still doesn't work.
No.
What? I don't know what to do. Somebody else share the link. Then.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Do it, Adam. Do it to him.
I'm trying. Where the frick is the?
Dang, it was going so good. I wanted to hear her reply to that, because I was trying to talk to her a little bit about
Is that we need to really.
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
As far as teacher pay is also, what kind of schools are we allowing in South Dakota? Like school choice, we
Should I back
really
it up?
kind of concentrate on the issues
could.
of the schools themselves.
Yeah,
but I
you
really
could.
think that if we allowed for more
Since
choice,
it's live, I don't know if you can.
for choice in education,
Oh, wait.
allowing for kids to choose, different types of schooling, because not all kids learn the same way. Not all kids are able to thrive in a public school environment.
Yeah, it's
If
not letting me
we
back up.
allowed
That's
the tax dollars to follow the children to whatever kind of school they learn best in, I think more teachers would stay in the state of South Dakota, because they would have that option to teach in a different school, but they were still getting funded for that child as they're going through that school system. We should be funding students, not systems. So I think that's a big thing, allowing for more open enrollment, allowing for more private schools, religious or otherwise, to be able to decrease the size of classes and allow children to learn the best way that they know how.
Crazy Quint is for the
Representative
kids.
Well, education is a passion of mine as a former teacher and a coach, and my wife is a teacher. I come from a background of my whole family, they're educators. And so when we talk about education, it's the backbone for our entire state. And the first thing we need to start with our teachers is respect. We need to show the profession of education the respect it deserves. And right now we have a governor that doesn't do that. She goes out of her way, goes out of the state to find our social studies standards and says it's not political, but yet it is. We need to trust our teachers to teach. We need to trust our school boards to be school boards. That's where it starts. Now, as a state, we need to fund that education, right? And we are towards the bottom again. And that's partly because of the way the formula is written, all right? Because when we do that, so we're going to need to always constantly look at that to make sure that we're providing education. My recommendation is that we start with our education budget first, because our kids are so important, and that's our future as a state.
We'll move on to healthcare. This question for Representative Smith. Last week, while discussing the long-term care crisis, you said part of the solution was for voters to expand Medicaid. However, expanding Medicaid eligibility does not directly impact the state's reimbursement rate for Medicaid. South Dakota has one of the lowest Medicaid reimbursement rates in the region, which is causing many long-term care facilities to lose more than $50 a day for each Medicaid pay resident. As governor, would you also support raising the Medicaid reimbursement rate? 90 seconds.
It's a very complex issue. And yes, we need to raise the reimbursement rate. When you lose $50 a day on every patient that you're taking care of, you can't do that. You can't do it very long. The way that our Medicaid expansion is going to help, and it's a short-term perhaps fix, but many of our long-term care facilities in smaller communities are being propped up by the hospitals that serve those communities right now. So those hospitals, in being able to be more profitable or solvent, are able then to still offer the long-term care. So that's what we're talking about there. Now, the process, as we know, day one, my lieutenant governor will be heading up a task force to make sure that we address this crisis. We've been talking about this for a very long time. As long as I've been in the legislature, this has been a crisis. And we keep getting, close, and we give it a little bit more and a little bit more, but we aren't to a point where we've stabilized it. And the cool thing the other day was Flandreau actually opened a new care facility. They were very creative on their reservation, and it is an amazing place to care for people. I wish all of our communities could have that same joy that they had that day, but that's not a reality right now. Something we need to work for, and we need to work together across the aisle to make sure that that happens.
Ms. Quint, 60 seconds.
Well, I guess I would say that I'm not 100% in favor of the Medicaid expansion, and any of my followers kind of know that. But I think there are other ways that we can look at increasing the medical funding within the state of South Dakota. He brought up the nursing home that the Flandreau tribe just opened, and part of the funding from that came from the medical marijuana income. Expanding recreational marijuana throughout the state of South Dakota. We could help fund some of the Medicaid expansion through something like that. That would bring a lot more funding through to the state of South Dakota. We don't want to be the last in line to do something with, cannabis legislation, because if we're the last ones, nobody's going to flock to us. Nobody's going to come in and want to spend money with us. So we want to make sure that we're ahead of at least some of the curve. So we need to work on getting that recreational legalized as soon as possible.
The next question is for Ms. Quint. Long-term care isn't the only healthcare sector facing staffing issues in the state. People in rural areas face more challenges when it comes to accessing healthcare, and it's only gotten worse as rural facilities struggle to hire enough doctors and nurses. What would you do to improve rural healthcare in South Dakota? 90 seconds.
I think one of the things that we can do to improve rural healthcare in South Dakota, we actually did it partially during COVID, was we expanded telehealth, and we took away some of the barriers for people to be able to access health through telehealth, especially in a rural area. It might be hard to get to a hospital. It might be hard to hire doctors and nurses. But if we can have, a smaller staff, but still be able to access the bigger hospitals through telehealth, through video calls, through being able to still have that access from the bigger metro areas, I think that's going to be a big help in making sure that the healthcare that the rural areas see is still good quality healthcare, and it's not just abandoned and they don't end up without in a healthcare desert, basically. So I would say that, expanding the ability to virtually meet with doctors and nurses in the bigger cities is one of the ways that we can help increase the quality of healthcare in rural areas.
Representative Smith, 60 seconds.
Have no doubt that Medicaid expansion will help. It'll help a lot. We've left billions and billions of dollars out of the economy here in the state of South Dakota because we haven't expanded Medicaid. And there are thousands of South Dakotans that don't have access to primary care, and many of them in rural areas. So that right there would allow payment for people's services, because ultimately people get sick and ultimately they go get care, but they get the most expensive care you can get at an emergency room, for example. It's not good for any of us. And these hospitals have bad debt that they have to write down then. So Medicaid expansion is a part of it. We also have great programs that we need to keep going that provide doctors for rural communities through scholarship opportunities and through payment, through scholarship opportunities and through payment, through scholarship opportunities and through payment, and when possible, making sure that we continue to do things like that in these communities.
Our next topic is Veterans Affairs. This question directed to Representative Smith. Earlier this evening, Governor Kristi Noem hosted a free dinner for veterans and their families here in Sioux Falls. If elected governor, there are at least two pressing concerns for state veterans. One is continued work on the state veteran cemetery. The second is the lack of resources veterans face when filing claims for federal compensation and benefits. Would you support adding more veteran services officers to the State Veterans Affairs Department? 90 seconds.
First of all, our veterans are so important, and I respect them. My father was a veteran, my grandfathers both World War II veterans. And so thank you. Thank you to those of you that served and that served so honorably in our country. Now, when it comes to providing services for these people, the Veterans Cemetery, by the way, was a bill that was it was a great bill for South Dakota, and it was great to see how people came together to support that bill. But we need to finish the job that we start, right? And so that's something we need to do. Another thing I'm advocating for, though, is an east side, somewhere on the east side of our state, a long-term care facility for our veterans. Veterans, right now, Hot Springs is where we have that long-term care facility, and they need the support there. And yes, we need people to do those jobs that you're talking about. We need to make access points for our veterans as streamlined as possible, so they can get the services they need, because they ultimately they deserve these things because of what they've done for our country and what they've done for us and for our freedom. As far as the fundraiser tonight, that's great. I just wish the governor was here so she could debate. You can do both. You can support our veterans and debate.
Ms. Quint, 60 seconds. Would you support adding more veteran services officers to the State Veterans Affairs Department?
First of all, I would like to say that I 100% support the veterans of the state of South Dakota and of our great nation. I'm the child of a veteran, and I understand the struggles that military families go through, being far away from their distant families and whatnot. So I would 100% would support the ability to have more supports across the state so that those veterans can get the services that they need and that they deserve, because they did sacrifice time with their families. They did sacrifice some of their mental health to be able to go and protect our country. And I think that we need to support them because of the sacrifices that they made for us. So we should be supportive of them.
That was our closing question of the evening. We also drew order for closing statements. That goes to Tracey Quint. 2 minutes for your closing statement, starting now.
Again, I would like to thank South Dakota Public Broadcasting for having me here tonight. And I want to thank the voters of South Dakota for allowing me to be a part of this election. And I want to thank Representative Smith for being here tonight and for the opportunity to have this discussion tonight. As you know, as a South Dakota voter, I felt it was important for me to be a part of this election, and I'm honored and thrilled to be a part of this and to be able to be here and expressing my views and to be representing my party. I would also encourage everybody to go out and express their views on election day. You know, go out and vote. Go out and do your civic duty and make sure that your voice is heard on election day. Everybody has that right, and I think that everybody needs to take that opportunity to show that, you know, they want to be involved in the decisions that their state and that their country has. And if you really feel strongly about a candidate, if you really feel strongly about an issue, please don't be complacent. Don't just say, well, it's going to pass anyway, or they're going to get elected anyway, or they're not going to get elected anyway, it's not going to fail anyway, because you don't know that. You don't know until election day happens. And if too many people are complacent, then it's not going to go the way that you want it to. So I would just encourage you to get out there and make sure that your voice is heard on election day. And I'm very proud to be here, and I want to thank you all again for allowing me to be.
Representative Smith, 2-minute closing statement starts now.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here. It's been an honor debating you again today. And you're right, the people deserve this discussion that we had here today. And it didn't hurt either one of us. We were here and we let South Dakotans know more about who we are. And that's what it's about. Thank you to South Dakota Public Broadcasting for making this an important part of what South Dakota is, informing people about their votes. That is so important as well, as a service to the state of South Dakota and to you, the voter. But I want to speak to you, the voter, and I want to tell you that it has been an extreme honor to be able to travel across the state of South Dakota. People have let me into their homes and into their businesses to show me how proud they are of where they're from. But they've also showed me the challenges that face them. As the governor of South Dakota, I want to work alongside you to make sure that South Dakota is a better state. And I can promise you that I will focus on you. I will focus on the state of South Dakota. I will serve all 4 years of my term when elected. And I want to work as hard as anybody's ever worked to make sure that becomes a reality. This is a close race, and voter turnout will decide this race. Don't be apathetic about voting. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. No matter who you're going to vote for, do your duty and vote. Thank you again, South Dakota Public. Thank you. It's been a great night, and thanks for tuning in tonight.
That concludes our 2022 gubernatorial debate, and I want to say thank you again to our candidates. You can listen to a rebroadcast of this debate on tomorrow's In the Moment. That's at noon Central, 11 Mountain, and again at 7 Central, 6 Mountain on SDPB Radio. This Thursday at 8 Central, a special hour-long South Dakota Focus reviews the 2 statewide ballot initiatives and introduces you to the candidates for
All right. Well, there it was. That was the debate. We had a little hiccup in there.
It happened.
I think it went really well. Tracey did night and day difference, honestly, from the first to the second. That's why I think it's important that we have more than freaking one debate during an election cycle. Because, you know, for her coming in, you know, not being a career politician, you know, you're facing Kristi Noem at this point is a career politician. And Jamie Smith, he said he served 6 years in the legislature, so he's not exactly a spring chicken, as they say. So she had a tough task for her in the first one. I think you could see nerves kind of got to her in the first one a little bit. But yeah, this one I think she did great. I thought she did really good.
You know, I kind of like seeing the nerves a little bit. To me, I might be a little biased because she's my running mate, but I think it humanizes people. We see so much of politicians that are just robots. They've got their answers on lock. They know how to behave in front of a camera. And Tracey looks like a real person that's trying her best to show up and, like she said, show her point of view on things as a real bread and butter South Dakotan.
Well, for better or worse, the 2 times I ran for office, we didn't do debates, but we did town hall forums. and I never wrote down notes, and I just completely winged the debates, so to speak. But like you said, in a way that that's actually showing what you actually think, though. It's
Yeah.
not you're not out on the campaign trail for 5 months rehearsing the same talking point.
Yeah.
You see that with a lot of the old candidates, but yeah,
Yeah.
I thought she did really good. Anybody got anything that stood out or you want to talk about? I know she had that one hiccup, but then that second half of the question, she totally redeemed herself. She had that one
Yeah.
little brain fart. But then, yeah, like I said, the second half, she was on point.
I found the part that messed up. If you want me to play it,
Yeah, what was it? Economy or something?
Yeah. Economy and jobs.
Okay.
Do it up, Devin.
Okay, a second. I'm slow.
Do
I'm
it
slow.
to him.
Stop screen. Present. I think it's here. Okay, and then it was right after this one, wasn't it? Yeah.
As rural facilities struggle to hire enough doctors and nurses. What would you do to improve rural healthcare in South Dakota?
Oh, wait. It was before this, wasn't it?
You brought up
Yeah, it was the one right before it.
Reimbursement rate.
It's like immigrant, or it's economy or
Economy
Yeah,
and
I thought
jobs.
Reimbursement rate.
Yeah.
Come on, Devin, get it together.
I got it.
There you go.
Also in the greatness of our state.
Here.
And also greatness of our state.
Okay, whatever.
And also providing workers into our economy. But we haven't done that. We need to do that. We need to make sure that we are welcoming people into the state of South Dakota that want to work. And so as the state of South Dakota, we need to do that. We need to bring workers here, show them that there are good jobs. The other thing that we can do to do a better job here too is through our training programs. I just got to visit a carpentry program for journeymen, and they are teaching people the trades right here in the state of South Dakota. And these folks are coming here and then working in the construction trades, the electricians and things like that. That's so vital to our economy in the state.
Ms. Quint, 60 seconds. What will you do to attract more people to the state and spur workforce development?
She's like, I'll beat that economy's ass.
I'm also going to agree on the immigration and refugees. We need to start working on good, smart immigration policies and looking at what we can do as far as allowing for work visas and allowing for refugees that want to come here and they want to get jobs. They want to contribute to the economy of the state. I think that's super important. Is not only to create a more diverse community, because I think that's something that Sioux Falls has always been really proud of, is the diversity here. But also we really, we need workers, and a lot of people will come to this country because they're willing to learn a new trade. They're willing to learn a new skill. So we need to concentrate on that. Our current administration has been opposed to allowing refugees in, and I really feel like that's a huge mistake for the state of South Dakota. We need workers to come in. We need to fill those jobs because we do have a lot of them that are empty. But I think that immigration and allowing refugees is a big part of that.
Our next topic is education. This question for Ms. Quint.
Those were my
notes. There have been recent legislative efforts to improve teacher pay in South Dakota.
So that was cool. That was cool. I got my little 2 cents in.
We lag behind neighboring states, making it harder to retain teachers. If you're elected, what will you do to improve teacher pay in South Dakota? 90 seconds.
Well, I think one of the things that we need to really look at as far as teacher pay is also, what kind of schools are we allowing in South Dakota, like school choice. We really kind of concentrate on the issues of public schools themselves, but I really think that if we allowed for more choice in education, allowing for kids to choose, different types of schooling, because not all kids learn the same way. Not all kids are able to thrive in a public school environment.
I think this is about where we got back into it.
The tax
didn't
dollars
we?
Yeah,
the
right
children
about
in whatever
here.
kind of school they learn best in. I think more teachers would stay in the state of South Dakota because they would have that option to teach.
But yeah, that was all good stuff. I think without the distraction of Noem being there, that was one of my complaints from the first debate. Honestly, after when we talked about it, was they didn't talk about enough of the issues.
Yeah, it was the Kristi versus Jamie show.
Yeah,
the whole time.
They spent a lot of time because Noem isn't giving interviews, so the media hasn't had a chance to grill her. So when she agreed to do that debate, the media took it as an opportunity to grill her, on the nepotism, on the state plane issue, on transparency. And that's fine, but that wasn't good for our candidate because it's let's talk about the issues. And this time, I think we actually talked about the issues more. So I think that was a good thing.
Yeah.
There was a couple good issues for libertarians too, like criminal justice reform, the drug crisis. It's refreshing to not hear somebody just say, well, we need to lock more people up, or how about Dusty the other night when he was going against Colin, making the bold claim that 90% of the crime in Rapid City is due to the southern border crisis. And, it just seemed a little hyperbolic to me, but
yeah.
But there's been such a echo chamber created on the conservative side of things where they found the perfect scapegoat, and it's not even an accurate one.
Yeah.
Where, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there absolutely is crime that's related to the border crisis. Sure, there's crime. I'm willing to bet you there's Canadians that are coming across the border stirring up trouble. It's like, but it's so much easier to point out the ones that have a different color skin because it's, why wouldn't you? It's just like, oh, okay, well, we've already been able to just, point at the person that looks different, and it's so much easier to use them as a scapegoat. So it's like,
I think you mentioned that you look a little Canadian. I think.
Hey man,
are you one of those Canadian troublemakers illegally here?
I really don't know what I am, to be honest with you.
He's not your buddy, guy.
Yeah,
I always like that. It's
not your guy, friend.
From South Park, they're like, blame Canada.
Yeah.
Blame Canada.
And I don't know, there's so many, we can blame our countries that share borders all we want, but there are so many ways that we could fix things, that issues that are coming from other countries right here, especially with the drug war. If we legalize cannabis here, then the black market, people bringing cannabis in from Mexico or Canada, loses power. Same thing with other drugs. If we decriminalize other drugs and focus more on rehabilitation, I really like that they brought up focusing on rehabilitation and the fact that the addiction is a disease that it maybe starts with a bad choice, but it's not a moral failing. It's a disease.
I didn't like Jamie's quite his answer though, because if you listen to one of his answers on the drug was he said maybe people need to go to do a term in prison to kind of clean up.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work for everybody. We see that all the time. People get shipped off to jail and then they don't have a good support system when they get out of jail to keep them sober. They might be sober in jail. They might not. People sneak drugs into jail.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the funny thing when you want to blame the border for all the drug problems in the world. It's that you can get drugs in prison, and a prison is a lockdown facility with guards, with walls, with everything else. These people are under 24-hour, allegedly 24-hour surveillance, and they still can get drugs in. So what do you think you're going to do down there at that southern border that isn't like a prison that, there's tunnels, there's submarines, but one thing I wanted to point out that you kind of hinted at was well, remember when we were kids growing up, I know I'm a little older than some of you guys, but when we were kids growing up, the only weed for the most part that you were buying was from Mexico. But, fast forward 20 years later, after California went medical in 96, Colorado went recreational in 2012, and now you've got homegrown USA marijuana, and you would be hard pressed, I think, to find Mexican marijuana at anywhere. I mean, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, this far up, people are bringing it from Colorado.
I haven't seen it in years.
So that became a big thing of people just ever since like Colorado passed it, that it was so easy for people to just drive down there and just instead of smuggling it across like country borders, it's like I just need to get through like
and the quality got better. The quality got better, the price got better. So I know a lot of people don't like to hear this because they might not be on the full decriminalization train or whatever, but the same thing will happen when you decriminalize other drugs. Like one of the things that drives me nuts is everyone wants to talk about fentanyl overdoses, and it's like, well, as long as there's going to be a black market for it and you can't legally go get it, and you can't go get it from where it's regulated, where it's, where what you're buying, what dosage you're buying, as long as they keep it in the black market, this is what we're going to be dealing with. But their solutions are to just double down on the drug war, double down on incarceration,
And locking people up. And if we quit locking people up for stuff like that and found treatment programs for them, and the disease really starts with like socioeconomic circumstances. A big thing I've learned from my time in healthcare is that whether it's drugs or eating too much food or just plain mental health problems, you can't help people who don't want to be helped. And we need to fix those underlying problems that cause people to turn to those things and treat themselves in unhealthy ways. That's a big multifaceted issue that's going to take a long time to fix, but we need to change our paradigm there big time. What we're doing is not working. I see it every day. And yeah, again, people get locked up in prison and they get out or jail and they don't have the proper support system. They're going to go right back to crime, to what they know, to doing drugs. The system's broken. Burn it down.
I will
basically burn it all to the ground.
I've always been
I got in trouble for saying that last election, I believe.
It wasn't me that said it. It was the whiskey that said it. The whiskey said it.
Hell yeah.
I do think there needs to be a difference between the people that need the help because of addiction and the people that are like intentionally dealing a deadly and dangerous drug too, because I know there's no love lost when I hear like about meth dealers and fentanyl dealers or whatever it is, like when they get locked up, because it's like I've seen that crap ruin people's lives, and like the people that get addicted, they need the help, but the people that are selling it, they know damn well what they're doing, and they know that it's like destroying families and stuff. So it's just like those are out of the two of them, that's the criminal to me, is the one that is just like if you were to.
Well, I disagree because I think that consenting adults can make business transactions for themselves, and no drug dealer is willingly or knowingly, or very few, willingly or knowingly giving somebody something that they know is going to kill them. Like this lace drug nonsense,
It doesn't make any business sense to sell something to your customers that's going to kill them. Then you don't have any customers anymore.
Is a meth dealer who's also doing meth making sound business decisions, though? That's the argument I would make.
But I would also
No,
argue that the term meth dealer could mean 1,000 fucking things, because a person that is addicted to drugs or uses drugs and procures drugs and has friends that use drugs is now a meth dealer. Why? Because Adam, if you came up to me and you said, Adam or Greg, I want to get messed up this week, I want to buy a gram, and I know where to go get a gram, I would sell you a gram because you're my buddy. And I'm a drug dealer. I'm a meth dealer now.
No, you're the in-between guy.
But the law doesn't differentiate that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times people have this idea because they've been growing up on Law and Order, Miami Vice, and all this bullshit, and they think we're just going after the Nino Browns of the community. We're just going after the dude that has a pound of meth in his car, and that happens sometimes, but it's rarely the case. What happens is, and I can tell you, firsthand experience in South Dakota, what happens is you get busted with something. The cops immediately tell you that the only way you can get out of this is if you do a wire buy for us, and you don't give two shits who you're doing that wire buy on. Whether it's your buddy down the street, whether it's some random Joe Blow 2 blocks down, you don't care. You go do that wire buy, and it just perpetuates this damn cycle of people snitching on each other and telling it. And I can tell you right now, it's just drug addicts telling on each other. Very few people high up in some chain are ever going to prison. It's just random drug addicts. I mean, I can remember a friend growing up who went to prison for giving somebody a prescription pill. Well, that's a controlled substance. That's dealing. That's blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm pretty passionate about ending the drug war. I know a lot of people are not as passionate as I am.
It definitely needs to be restructured. Absolutely. If we can't end it, there's got to be different rules. Like I'll flatly admit to you guys, and I've said this to everyone in my family, so it's not like this is a secret, but like I've had, I'll just say, a particular close family member who's had nothing but drug problems and alcohol problems their entire life. They've been through treatment. They've, been arrested, all that stuff, and they would send them to treatment, which, obviously that's what we want people to get treatment, but they say the right things when they're in treatment to get out of the treatment. They get back into the substance thing, and it's just like, in my opinion, my own family member that I'm talking about, they should be in prison, because to me, that's the only way they can actually stay clean for a certain amount of time to maybe get their head clean.
But why is that so important?
It only works for some people. I have somebody that's close to me who gave himself up to the cops because he saw his life spiraling out of control on drugs, and going to prison worked for him. But I've seen other people that they get out of jail even after that chunk of time where they aren't doing any drugs, they go right back to it because it's what they know. And some of the treatment doesn't even work for people. I mean, like, I watched that guy go through treatment in probation, and he thought all of it was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I think that needs to be restructured too. And then again, if we don't go back to those base issues that cause people to turn to drugs, a lot of it is mental health. A lot of it is socioeconomic circumstances. If we don't fix those things, we're human beings. I'm drinking this glass of whiskey because I had a hard day at work today. Yep. There are tons of people that are having a hard life and they're drinking a whole handle tonight, or they're doing a baggie of meth. Mm-hmm. And it, like I said, it's a huge multifaceted issue, and we don't have the infrastructure here to deal with all the mental health issues. There's a ton of stigma here with mental health issues. The old rancher types and stuff like that, my family, when I had mental health issues, I was told not to talk about it. It's not on either of the coasts in California and New York and stuff. It's normal to have a therapist and get mental health help, and here it's not. You must be a crazy. Don't talk to anybody about it because they'll judge you. We need to fix that.
Yep.
We need to fix the infrastructure that's in place. We have one mental health facility on the west side of the state, and it's constantly full.
And I'm assuming they're probably churning people in and out as quick as they can too.
Yeah, it's not a long-term facility. When we have people come in that need long-term mental health care, they have to go east, and they're full too. So they sit around getting no help, bonging up our system over here, waiting for a bed to open over there.
Right.
The whole thing's a mess, and then the stigma on top of it of asking for help before it's a crisis. It's this whole thing. Like I could go on for hours. I could make your podcast 3 hours long talking.
It's never made sense to me why, and I've talked to my wife about this. I've talked to plenty of people about it. Is that instead of like in schools, like, don't get me wrong, I understand that like physical education has its place and all that stuff, but like instead of learning to play dodgeball and all that crap, why don't we take some time, like instead of having physical health, that we talk about mental health through all facets, like elementary school, middle school, high school, whatever, to where it's just like start teaching that stuff early on, to where you can identify stuff early on. You can start talking to people about it, and like keep a counselor on hand at a lot of these schools so they can have people to talk with. Like another paradigm shift that we just need to have is that the brain is an organ, and just like your lungs and your stomach and your heart, it can get sick. And so I think it's an integral part of teaching kids how to take care of themselves. We learn in school how to eat healthier. We learn in school how to exercise and do cardio and take care of our heart. We need to also learn how to take care of our brain. And that doesn't start and end with don't do drugs because drugs bad, you lose brain cells. Okay? Like it currently does. And I did some right out of high school. I used to work for a nonprofit organization where I went around and talked to kids, but it was one day a year, and I was talking to freshmen, and sometimes I got kicked out of that and I had to talk to the parents. And it was mostly talking about how to deal with crisis. I didn't have enough time to talk about, and I don't have the training either. There should be people in schools talking about how to maintain your mental health. All I did was show up and go, hey, if you or your friend is thinking about committing suicide, or I'm sorry, we shouldn't say committing suicide, because suicide used to be a crime. It's not anymore. It's dying from a disease. If your friend is thinking about taking their own life, or you're thinking about taking your own life, here's what to do. Here's your toolbox to deal with that. We need to fix things before it becomes a crisis. And if people knew better how to maintain their mental health and stuff like that, we probably wouldn't have as much of a problem with drugs and alcohol too, because people turn to drugs and alcohol to feel better rather than seeking mental health treatment. Right.
Or because sometimes because they're just bored and they got nothing to do, or because the medical system got them hooked on opioids and then they can't get any more opioids because they have a narcotics letter on their file now, and so they turn to buying meth from the dealer down the street because he doesn't care if you've got a narc letter, he's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
It's a huge mess. And again, I could go on forever about it, but I digress, I suppose.
Well, we got 2 hours left, so keep going. No.
Don't get me started, Greg.
Oh, don't get me started about the goddamn drug crisis. Personal experience, it's like, dude, at some point, you just got to let people make their own decisions and make their own choices. Like, I'm sympathetic to when like Adam said, well, we got a family member that just will not get clean. It's like, but you're saying you would throw him in prison versus just letting him live his goddamn life. Like we have family members that have in the past seemed like they were addicted for a few years. I don't want to call anyone out, but like other than disassociating from that person, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm not going to call the cops on that guy and have him thrown in prison. I think he's out there living a bad life. You know what I'm saying? I think he's not making good choices. I think he could be a lot better person than he is. You know what I'm saying? But it's like I'm not gonna say that he should be in prison. You know, like what's that?
Can I just tell a joke to lighten the mood a little bit that came to mind?
Yeah, I was gonna move on. I don't know why I went back in.
How many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh God, I knew this one too.
Only one, but the light bulb has to want to change.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
It's very wholesome. Very wholesome.
I will add one final comment to what you're saying, Greg. To like, just let the people live their life or whatever. In my case, like I was talking about, I would much rather this person went to prison or jail or whatever for an extended period of time, rather than that person end up dying because of the decisions they're making. And like, in a lot of people's cases, it's at that level. And I get it. There's some people that are just like, they just get drunk a lot or they get high a lot or whatever, you know. But there's also some that like literally are slowly killing themselves and they are not stopping. So it's just like, if nothing is working, you know, and if that's the only option that hasn't been tried yet, to me, it's just like, I would much rather see this family member have to sit like a year or something like that than never see this individual again because they just never could sober up.
I have a big counter to that you should think about.
Right.
Should we, with patients who come in who have a bad relationship with food, have diabetes, they're non-compliant with their diabetes medications, they're not controlling their eating, they're not fixing their mental health, should we throw those people in jail to fix them? Should we lock them up and put them in prison?
Is that what you're saying, Ashley?
I know.
Well, yeah, think about that.
I feel like
if your doctor decided that you had a bad relationship with food, right, and that you're slowly killing yourself by eating takeout too many times a week, and decided how would you feel about that? Would that make you want to clean your life?
No, I totally get what you, and that's an extremely good point with it too. Because and I mean, using that exact example, that's just as bad as a lot of things, really. I mean, if you're not taking, I mean, that's, my family is full of addiction. Like, I'm not even joking, whether it's been gambling, smoking, drugs, alcohol. Mine is like, I do not eat very good. Like, my stress thing is like, I eat crap all the time. Like, I've never smoked pot. I've never, like, I mean, I drink now.
You got the body for it, though.
Yeah, I'm working on it. But it's just like, I mean, even as like a teenager and stuff, like I drank underage twice. And one time was with my wife when she turned 21 and was able to buy me beer. So it's like, other than that, like, I mean, it's never been a thing. Like, I don't ever hardly gamble. I've never smoked. And it's just like, but it's just like McDonald's, they know me by name, you know, because that's my like crutch, you know. So
everybody's got their thing. I mean, people can ruin their lives by getting too sucked into a video game.
Mm-hmm.
He like pulls up and they're like, Adam,
what up? They have it on my phone. They're just like, oh, he's coming. Get his order started.
Back for that adult Happy Meal again.
I ordered Domino's tonight, but I got a salad, guys.
What?
That is so that's like slapping.
That's so
Jesus
wrong.
in the face.
I've done that at Papa Murphy's before, the take and bake place.
They probably thought you were prank calling them too. Just be like, hey, can I get a salad? They're like, who is this?
Who is this? My husband got a pizza. I just didn't feel like eating pizza tonight. Neither of us felt like cooking. I was busy doing this, so I got a salad. Sue me.
I will, actually.
How's
Okay,
a salad though?
lawyer up.
See, my
I'll see you in
problem with
court. I'll be
my
my own
problem with-
lawyer up my ass.
my problem with eating is like when I drink, I like to eat. So how's a salad after you've been drinking some whiskey? Is that satisfactory? It wouldn't. It doesn't seem satisfactory.
I feel like my stomach would be just like
This is my thing when I've been drinking. Nicotine is my thing when I've been drinking.
Well, shoot, back to the debate, I guess.
Yeah.
Tracey did great, I thought.
Tracey did great.
Yeah.
Sorry, we turned y'all off with our legalized meth campaign.
I think everybody liked it because they stayed on.
Any other highlights? I thought she did great. I know there was a lot of criticism online. I saw one article by that Dakota scout that was like, after the Colin debate, he was like, Colin or something totally redeems Libertarian Party. And I kind of took offense to that a little bit. I'm like, what do you mean redeems us?
Yeah.
Like, he did great, but we didn't need redeemed, you know.
No, I think if any of those people writing those comments were in Tracey's shoes in that first debate or in this one, they would have been nervous too. They wouldn't have known what to do amongst these career politicians that have spent a ton of time in front of cameras talking to media. Tracey hasn't had a ton of experience doing that, and that's because she's a real person, and it takes a lot of practice and training, first of all, and those people are very rehearsed. They're very, especially Kristi, she's very party lines.
Yeah, and they don't give us
Tracey's
questions
speaking
ahead.
from the heart on a lot of the things questions that she answers, and sometimes she's gonna say and pause for a second because she's thinking about what she's trying to say. I don't see
what I do. I talk before I talk so fast that like what I'm doing right now. See,
yeah. And the reason why, like, I couldn't, if there was a lieutenant governor debate, I would probably at some point just get diarrhea of the mouth and say something
At least it's that.
so
the other one.
libertarian, you guys would all be really proud and everybody would be like, geez, who's this crazy? You guys would be like, yeah.
Well, it's always funny when you go full libertarian in a debate or something, because it's like, even me a few times they'd be like, well, we should be spending more money on higher education in South Dakota, and your answer is just like, no, we shouldn't. Like, it's not happening. Find something to cut. You know, quit asking for more money.
You just give yes or no answers. They're like,
always go full libertarian.
Like, Greg, do you think that we should be spending more? You're like,
no.
Next question. You got through like 35 questions in a 1 hour debate because you were just like, no, not happening under my watch.
No.
Like, do you think we should legalize it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
Everything, whatever you got.
Why?
Man.
Because freedom. That's why. Next question.
You're like, I'll try anything. I mean, yeah, whatever. Just, you know.
I'll inhale, sure.
What do you got? What are you saying?
Pass it over here.
Greg, how do you respond to the allegations that blah blah blah? And you're like, I don't give a shit. It's not my problem.
Right.
Haters gonna hate. Next question.
Oh man, I think this has officially gone off the rails, guys.
Yeah, your whole campaign.
I'm loving it.
Stickers. Oh, yeah, it was good stuff. I don't know if you guys want to do a live stream of tomorrow's debate. It's not till November 4th. But she invited me to come to the SDPV studios. So I've never been there. So I thought I would probably take her up on that.
For which one?
Tamara Lesner's.
Oh, okay.
So she'll be debating on the 4th of November. But yeah, she invited me to come, and I've never been there. I thought that would be cool, so I might do that. But if you guys want to live stream that debate,
yeah, we can do that.
Maybe I'll try to make her say taxation is theft at least once.
Do it. Do it.
One person has to.
What time?
Somebody's got to do it.
Just put one little sprinkle.
It's like, I don't even care if you've got a big old butt at the end of that sentence. You just need to lead with taxation is stuff, but we got to hear it.
I just want somebody to look at the camera and call out Pat Powers and just be like, listen, I know you're about to write something stupid. And I'm like, I already know what's coming, buddy. So bring it on. And then just answer the question as normal. Every time they ask you a question.
What did that article say last time? I didn't even read it.
Which one?
Commented. The one about Colin.
Oh, they said they're just like, what's up with his eyes? I'm like, you're really cool.
That's a hunter's really eyes, bro. Better watch out.
Like you're really reaching for.
He's looking for his prey, man. That's what he's doing.
This is what night vision looks like.
Yeah. I'm kind of. Has he written anything about Tracey and I? I haven't been paying attention.
I don't think he did. He? I didn't see that.
He just made a small comment about like how did he phrase it? Something like she looked like a deer in the headlights and said, you know too much or something like that. And it's like dude, like how about like if like you
speaking about a deer in the headlights, Ravnsburg, is evil attorney general. He's just a bad guy.
Just a bad guy.
Let's talk about him.
Yeah,
that guy was a rascal, you know, like just a real troublemaker. That guy.
Kind of offended he hasn't said anything about me. There's so much to say about me.
Dude, I was so bummed out that when I ran, there wasn't anything.
I just like part of the reason that I agreed to do this in the first place is because you never see anybody that looks like me run, like a young person with tattoos and gauges and the funky hairstyle and stuff. Like, I know that other people my age want to see that. We want to see people that look like us run. And I can't, I'm absolutely offended. Pat Powers, give me what you got.
Well, I will say that too many people in South Dakota are definitely scared to run for office. And based on the number of seats that went unopposed this year and like how many times, like these Republicans are just walking into seats because there's no opposition. And so, obviously I would like to get, good polished candidates that have all the answers for voters. But you know what? Regular people need to fill these voids. I mean, come on, man.
More regular people need to run. And I don't know, we've gotten into such a climate of politician worship and stuff. And I think we could get away from that if more just like regular, flawed human beings ran, and we're all just people, and these people that we elect need to work for the people that elected them. Again, it's a mess. Burn it down.
Ashley, after all this is, and God forbid, if you guys don't win, I think you need to run in your district.
Yeah.
We almost had her convinced to go for sheriff.
Oh yeah.
Can anyone run for sheriff, or do you have to be a part of the?
No. So I found out if you're non-law enforcement, if you were to win, you would be sent to police academy and stuff.
Ooh.
fun.
Like the 80s
Yeah,
movies, Police Academy.
Yeah.
I'd get to learn how to drive a car while operating a
That guy's
laptop
coming to Watertown, by the way, Greg.
legally.
Michael Winslow or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think I would be a great fit for sheriff. Just I have no law enforcement background and stuff like that. It would be kind of cool to run for something small. It's still nuts to me that this is my first time running and I just shot straight for the top.
Well, and I think that's even with Tracey too, you know, her first time running and ran for governor, you know, in her situation, you know, I'm grateful she did. The other candidate, I don't think would have represented us and our views even halfway as well as she did. So I am grateful that she did run and that you ran as well. I think you guys are both candidates. No surprise here, but you got my vote come November 8th.
Yeah,
I need to go do it before that.
I think the next couple years, I'll be completely candid here. Like, I want to go to school to further my career and stuff. I've never really wanted a career in politics, but again, I do think that more regular people should run. So I would be open to running again for something after I finish school. It'll be a lot easier for me to do so too. Being further along in my career and making more money right now, it's hard to take time off and make trips and stuff like that.
Well, so, and nobody gets to say, well, this is your first time running then either. This is the second time. And
this has been a great learning experience too. I helped Gideon a lot on his first campaign and a little bit on his second campaign. But this has been worlds different, having to run in the entire state rather than, his district was huge, includes Hot Springs, Wall, part of Rapid, Custer, Keystone, Hill City. It was nuts. But this has been a different monster. And it's taught me a lot. I think I could really kick some butt doing something small after doing this. I know what it takes. I have experience at door knocking.
Nice.
From Gideon's campaign. I got to knock Gideon's opponent's campaign. Huh?
Oh, I said maybe there's a city council seat in your future.
I made the city council cry once. All of them.
All of them?
Nice.
Yeah.
Damn. Gotta stop being so much of a bully. Damn.
No, it wasn't because I was mean. It was when I was working for that mental health nonprofit. Their funding was about to get cut from the city, which was really sad because we were providing a really essential service. We were going out and the cops and the EMS and stuff don't have time to do the emotional work that's necessary with the families of people who have died by suicide. And so that's what we were doing. We were being dispatched out with the police and ambulances to help talk the family through what was going on. A lot of people don't think about, we usually lined up cleanup for them. And went to funerals to help talk to people. Suicide is contagious. We wanted to help try to curb that. And so I went and spoke for the organization to try to keep our funding because it was about to be cut in half. And I talked about how this organization had really helped me. And in a ripple effect, I had become a volunteer and helped a lot of other people, saved some other people's lives. And that this program was really, really important to me. I got tears in everybody's eyes, and then they still voted to cut our funding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a typical government. I'm really sad, but you know what?
Actually, we already allocated that funding to that new fountain down on the
or this new residential development that's going to build $500,000 houses.
Yeah. They cut us. Same thing happened with this was with Front Porch Coalition here in Rapid. And then the same thing happened to Wavy, which is an organization that helps women and their children that are trying to get away from domestic violence. We were both receiving at the time about $5,000 a year, and we got cut down to $2,500, which was really sad, especially after we both went in there and talked about how impactful these programs had been. They had somebody that was a victim of domestic violence speak, and I have attempted suicide a couple of times in my life, and this program really helped me fix that for myself, and also take what happened with me and use it to impact other people. A lot of other people, and it was really sad to lose that funding. As much as I know that funding was not coming from the city or the county, it was taxpayers' money, but I think that if people got a chance to vote where their money goes, they might have chosen differently than these, oh, that's so sad, vote against.
Right.
Yeah, if they would have defunded just one police officer, they could have quadrupled both of your guys' budget for a year.
I've got at one point, I forget exactly when it was, but I used to live in a neighborhood here in Rapid called Star Village. That was kind of rough, equivalent almost to North Rapid. And at one point, a grandma called her grandson in missing and thought that he was in danger. And you know who showed up? The SWAT team.
Wow.
The cops here in town used it as a chance to flex they brought their armored vehicle and their SWAT team in for a kid that had run away from his grandma.
But that kid never runs away again, because that's scary.
I have a feeling I know why they did it too. It was a little native kid.
Yep. Well, in South Dakota, it's those native kids that they need that kind of force to take them down.
So if they had their little tank that they like to pull out for unnecessary situations taken away, maybe Wavy and Front Porch Coalition and other awesome organizations here in town that help the community would have more money to operate.
I just can't imagine why they think that these relationships are so rough. And it's just like that poor little kid. He's like, yeah, I ran away from home. I got in an argument with my grandma. She was trying to make me do chores or something. And then it's like the SWAT team showed up and they're pointing guns and stuff at me. It's like, oh shit.
Adam, he wasn't even in the house they rolled up to.
Oh, jeez. That's even better.
It's not funny, but at the same time, I can just imagine that it's just then they're just like, well, I just don't get why people don't trust us. It's like, I don't know. If
we've got to cut funding here because we got to afford all these lawsuits from our SWAT team. So,
if a SWAT team broke into my house and they're just like, we know you're hiding the bodies, I'll be like, what are you talking about? And they look at something, they're like, oh, we're on the wrong street. It'd be like, oh, okay, sweet.
They just want to. I don't know. I see all that military equipment that the police have, and I have worked alongside cops, and I'm sorry to all the cops that are so my friends, but sometimes you guys talk about that stuff like it's cool toys to show off, like it's a Corvette that you want to drive down the street and make everybody jealous of, and that's gross.
You know what they need is less of these armored vehicles, less of these tanks, and more of the Segways, because those are non-threatening and they're more approachable. So, if you see a cop going down the street on a Segway, you're gonna be like, that guy is a friendly neighborhood cop that's just patrolling to make sure everybody's doing okay. But if you see a cop in a tank, you'll be like, that guy's gonna kill somebody.
They should dress like UPS delivery drivers too.
Yeah,
short shorts.
Yeah, because who's running away from the Amazon guy? Nobody.
We have cops in the summer downtown that wear shorts, Greg.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the whole Reno 911.
Short shorts.
Yeah.
I wear short shorts.
And I think I've seen one. Maybe there were like parking ticket people on Segways. Yeah. So they got their Segways and they got their armored vehicle. Like one of these two things has to go. Tank. And I vote tank.
And I suppose out in Rapid, there's probably no National Guard anywhere nearby. To where, if they had to have access
there's
to
a guard camp in Rapid.
Okay, so if they absolutely needed access to something, I mean, the U.S.
There's the guard camp in Rapid, and then there's an Air Force base in Box Elder, which is 15 minutes away.
And then the Sanford lab in the old Homestake mine, that really bases the secret government. And so there's a battalion of white hats down there.
Yeah.
Ready
with the reptilians and the
ready to attack whenever Trump gives the order. So there's plenty of military out there.
Yeah, there's plenty of it. It's I don't necessarily like the phrase defund the police. I think the police should have it it's just like taxes. We can't reform everything just by us getting into office and slamming a gavel and being like, no more taxes and no more cops. I'm more for the whole demilitarize the police.
Or refund the police, where it's just like, some of that stuff you got, we want a refund on, and you don't get it anymore. Like, we want our money back for that tank, and we're gonna get you some more Segways and horses, because horses are environmentally friendly.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We can scoop up the manure from the Mountie cop horses and use it to help our agriculture, which is a big.
I'm sorry if I see
here in South Dakota.
If I see a cop chasing anybody while they're on a horse, I'm cheering for that cop every time, just because that's exciting to watch. Like every time, because it's got to be like a really good crime for like the guy that's on a horse to be like, get him bullseye, and like they just take off. I'm all about that.
We had a cop try to pull us over a long time ago. This was about 20 years ago.
On horse?
But no, he was on a bicycle. And when he finally got us pulled over, he tried to pretend that we almost ran him over. It's like, well, you didn't see me back there? You almost ran me over. It's like, no, you're on a fucking bicycle, dude. You got a little blinking light on your freaking handlebars. No, we didn't see you.
I have a friend who almost, before we were old enough to have licenses, she got pulled over on her bicycle by the town cop for driving on the wrong side of the road. Just because he didn't like her parents.
Hey, do you have to be having? They're just like, because they have to call that crap in too. Like anytime they make a stop, they have to call just like, hey, I got a 12-year-old driving on the wrong side of the road. Yeah. All
right. That cop has since retired for I'll say alleged because there wasn't ever any court about it, but alleged sexual harassment. Also, he's old as dirt. He should have retired a long time ago.
Nice.
But yeah,
the first red flag should have been stopping kids on bikes.
Yep.
Okay, Kevin, why'd you do that? And he's just like, anytime I see kids, I just pay extra close attention. That's not something you should do, Kevin.
It was there was an environment in the little town that I grew up in that it kind of mattered who your parents were in town. I definitely did some stupid stuff in that town. And did I ever get a ticket from that cop? Nope. Did my husband get a bajillion tickets from that cop because that cop didn't know who his parents were? Yeah. And then her and her brother, the cop didn't like their parents.
You always hear the stories let's just say our parents or whatever, like back in their day, it's just like when they got in trouble sometimes, like say like they got pulled over for like drunk driving or something, like you always hear the stories about how they're just like, all right, I'm going to follow you home, but you stay home. Like that's how they handled that kind of stuff. Like at one point, they're just like, I know you're drunk. I'm going to let you get back in your vehicle and I'm just going to follow you home and you better just stay there. Otherwise you're going to be in real trouble. Or like, they would just be like, hey, knock it off. Like, but now like there's this, like you're lucky if you don't get beat on the way out.
Yeah. And there's also like here in Rapid, everybody that I know that's had not enough money to buy a nice car, like if you drive a crappy car that's got paint job issues and a different colored door, if it looks like a, sorry to use this term, a res runner, you're more likely to get pulled over. They're profiling people. It used to happen to my husband. He had a crappy car. He got pulled over all the time. Now he has a nicer car. He hasn't been pulled over since. And he drives exactly the same. So, and I've been pulled over a couple of times and I've never gotten a ticket. I've been escorted home because I blew through a light in the snow. And if somebody with a different skin color than me did that, they might have been stopped and frisked and had their car searched and car hauled off to impound. And yeah, they're the profiling.
That doesn't happen in South Dakota.
Yeah, it does, especially in racist city.
Racist city.
Don't talk about Watertown like that.
Yeah,
actually.
keep Watertown's name out your mouth.
No. That's what like the Indian collective out here refers to Rapid City a lot as racist city.
Well, I mean, they do have that hotel that was just like, hey, you can't be at our hotel anymore. like it was the 50s.
Don't get me started on those people. The lady like sprayed them with pledge, sprayed the protesters that weren't hurting anybody with freaking pledge.
What's pledge?
Like
it's okay. I'm sure you've never used this product, Devin, but it's duster. It's duster spray stuff. It's
never
stuff
heard of
that spray on wood to like polish it and dust stuff. It's a cleaning product. It's definitely not healthy. It's probably got a Prop 65 warning from California. This product causes cancer on it. And she sprayed it in people's faces.
Oh, hold on.
God. Adam's got some pledge.
I actually don't have any pledge in my house, but there you go. Yeah.
Pledge. That's like Febreze.
That's pledge. I was like thinking, I'm like, I know there's a bottle around here somewhere. This is the dust and allergen one because I have pets.
Yeah. Yep. Those people were nuts. And then the son was like, don't listen to my mom. She's a racist, but Native Americans should be banned from having alcohol and sugar because they can't metabolize it right. And it makes them act like nuts.
My God. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't listen to my mom because she's racist, but here's this racist point of view that I have that's more right than hers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's science.
Yeah.
It's
I don't want them at my hotel is what he's basically trying to say.
Yeah. The one of the other people on the board for that hotel that's also a family member, I don't know where it went, but he was suing the rest of them for ownership of it because of the way they all acted and a bunch of stuff that didn't necessarily have to deal with racism, but they weren't running the hotel right. So, and that's not the only business in town they own.
They're going to have to change the name.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, guys, it's about 10 o'clock. Should we call it or?
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
We each get 2 minutes for closing statements, don't we?
I've been out of beer for like 30 minutes, so I was ready to.
First of all, Greg, I want to thank you for hosting this event. You and Devin.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ashley, for also being here.
Closing
I'm just so glad that we were all able to be here for this conversation and to be able to have
Voters
this.
needed it.
And Hedgehog Watchdog, the viewers, thank you. You know, when you have options of what to watch during debate night, you know, just get out there and watch the debates. I mean, we're fighting for your viewership, but get out there and watch the debates. So thank you again and have a good night.
I'm going to clip that. We can do 1 minute clips.
I didn't have enough hands.
I'm going to clip that tomorrow. Here, listen to Adam Jewell's closing statement.
I think you and Greg, or you and Devin need to do that every time that you sign off on one of these. You just have to have closing statements.
Oh, thank you, viewers. I'd like to see turn out a little more.
You're lucky that we're
Don't
here
be
for
complacent.
you.
Don't be complacent in your viewership of the Hedgehog Watchdog.
Yeah, dude, we should just hold cats up to our cameras, and that's how we sign up.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
I don't even know where my cat is.
I'm just so glad that we can all be here and have this conversation.
My cats are outside, so I can't hold them up.
I think next time that any of us run, we should bring cats to the debate stage.
Oh, look at this. We got oh no, that was a dog.
It's close
Ashley
enough.
screwed up.
I don't know where my cat is. In typical cat fashion.
I could try to get Perla up here quick, but my door is shut.
Is it
Perla?
I don't even like this cat that much. She's just here.
You're
Why
like, wait a minute, whose cat is this? This isn't my cat.
My cat's upstairs, probably already waiting for me to come to bed. She always sleeps on my side of the bed and just waits for me to. Hi.
Where's your corgis?
One of them's at the bottom of the stairs, one's at the top of the stairs, and they're barking at each other because they're stupid.
Oh, those are the Queen's dogs.
Can you not hear
it?
Yeah. They're not doing anything to each other, just barking. I don't know how Queen Elizabeth did it, man, and she had like 30 of them. I have 2 of them, and I'm like, this is stupid. People are like, they're so cute. They're not.
All right, guys. Well, shit. We'll see you.
Yeah, close it out. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking.
November 4th. You guys can talk shit about the Senate debate.
All right. Sounds good. You'll be there with our live reporter interview, right?
Yeah. I'll be trying to whisper in her ear. Tell
Remember,
her
10-second delay.
Anarchist.
Try to get one with her and John soon. That'd be cool. All right.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye, folks.
Bye.